Hey y'all, it's just me T. So I thought today I would do a video about the top things you should kind of do when you first get engaged. I had a friend recently message me a few times, cause I just recently got married, asking for wedding advice. And I thought, it'd be cool to do a video about, you know, what to expect after you get engaged. Kind of when I first got engaged, it was like, oh yeah, you're engaged. And it was like, everybody asked the question the next day, like, when are you getting married? Where's your wedding gonna be at? What day? And it was just very overwhelming. So I thought I would do a video, basically talking about that. So let's get started. All right, guys. So the first thing you're gonna do when you get engaged is definitely take the time to enjoy the fact that you just got engaged. Engagement, whether it's short or long, is a very sweet period. It's basically, your second to last stop before you get married. And once you're married, it's like the last step you can take in your relationship. So I highly recommend just taking some time. I took about a month before I jumped into wedding planning. But definitely take, however much time you need. Some people need a week, some people need a day. Wedding planning is always going to be there. Nothing is going to change. So I highly recommend taking some time to enjoy you and your fiance and just enjoy that sweet time. Being engaged is a very sweet, special moment. And you should enjoy that. All right, my next thing is to figure out your budget. Weddings can cost a lot. I know some people who spend $30,000 on weddings, people who spend $5,000, people just who go low. Weddings can be expensive, and if you don't budget properly, you can be overwhelmed with the expense of it. So definitely, you and your fiance need to sit down and talk about a budget. That budget could be anything. It could be, we wanted, like me and my fiance, our budget was to stay around $8,000. If we could do under 10 grand, that's what we were looking for, because we were, weren't making a lot of money, and especially we had our wedding during a pandemic, so I was furloughed from my job, and he was the one who was actually bringing in like consistent income. So it was a little bit stressful. So trying to keep your costs down was the main problems. But definitely talk about your budget. If you can only spend $10,000, then frame what you want to fit under that budget. This also goes into my next topic, is to pick what is important for you. I highly recommend you sit down with your fiance and talk about the top 3 things that are important to you, each of you guys, for a wedding. Like for me, it was photographer, videographer, and I think my dress. Those are like my top 3 things. My fiance, my husband, like I said, I keep forgetting that he is my husband. Newlywed problems, guys. My husband, food and music, and I forgot the other one was like his top 3. His top 3 things. So he chose those things. Those were his top favorite things. I had my top things. And you kind of figure out what most of your budget's going to go to. If your wedding dress is the number 1 top thing on your thing, then you would spend allocate more money to your wedding dress than you would do it towards, say, decor. You would pick and choose what you need to. So you'll say, hey, you know what? This is important to me, so we're going to spend the most money on this. And this, and if we have it, it's not a big deal. But definitely sit down with your budget and what's most important to figure out kind of your time frame on that. Next thing you're going to do, once you have a budget picked out, of course you cannot do anything until you have a date. Pick a date. Is probably one of the most important things, because that's going to be the date you tend to remember your anniversaries on. That's going to be your guys' date, and it's going to be a very special date to you and your future spouse. So what I highly recommend is picking 3 dates, because for our wedding date was 10/10/2020, was our wedding date, and that date is extremely popular. It was extremely popular this year. So when we were in the beginning of wedding planning, which was last year, pre-COVID, we decided that we were going to have a backup date. Our backup date was 10/3/2020, which is October 3rd, which Mean Girls Day. So I wasn't opposed to having that as a backup day. It was actually my husband who chose our wedding day. He thought it was a cool day, and it turns out most of the venues we were looking at did not have that date because it was such a popular date, but the venue we were supposed to have our wedding at had the date. So we ended up securing that venue because it was cheaper and because they had our wedding date. So pick 3 dates, especially if your wedding date is a popular date. then I would recommend, if the date's not extremely important to you, to have backup dates. If the day that you're picking is extremely significant to you, then buckle down and do that. But if you're picking a date and it happens to be popular, if you're flexible with the date, pick a backup just in case, because you never know. Something that we came across a lot in our wedding. Next up, I have guest count. Guest count is probably one of the trickiest things, only because it's not just your family and your friends, it's your significant other's family and friends as well. And especially if your parents are paying for majority of the wedding. I know a lot of people whose family members are paying for majority of the wedding, they have it where they have their family wants to invite all these people because they're paying for the wedding. They can do that. That gets tricky, but especially if you have more control over that in that sense, I highly encourage you to sit down and write down your top people in your wedding, who you want in your wedding. We originally, before pre-COVID, we had about 130, and then when we actually had our wedding, we went down to 60. So kind of pick and choose who you want, and don't feel pressured or obligated to invite certain people. Like, it's your wedding day, and if you don't want that person you knew and met once 10 years ago to come to your wedding, they don't need to come to your wedding. Your wedding, people at your wedding, people that are going to be there for you, they're your support group, they are your friends, they're your family members, they're people that you would want to see. Everyone I had at my wedding are people who I usually have at family function, people who I usually see all the time, people who mean the most to me. I'm not saying people weren't as important, but those are the people that are like my core. And same for my husband. Next thing you're gonna do is pick a theme. Theme and colors kind of go in the same way. And the reason why I say theme before venue is because your theme of your wedding highly affects your venue. If your theme is more elegant, your venue you're gonna choose to be more elegant. If you make more of a rustic theme, then obviously your venue is gonna be more rustic theme. So definitely have a theme. And theme can be as simple as, I want a winter wedding, Okay, cool. So let's say your wedding is going to be in December, and it's going to be winter, and so do you want to be an outdoor wedding or do you want to be indoor wedding? Because it's going to be cold outside. If you want it outdoors, how are you going to... It's the theme and the time of your wedding greatly affects your venue, your food, your decor. It affects everything, especially because certain flowers are only available certain times of the year, and the flowers you want are only available in June, then you might have to change either your date or change your theme, So definitely come up with a theme. I feel like coming up with a theme and the colors and everything was probably the most fun part, at least for me. I felt that because it was kind of like but it does get kind of expensive, so I DIY'd a lot of things, so it's something to consider. But yeah. And next, of course, is your venue. Your venue is going to be, where everything gets held. What to look for in a venue is if you're going to do indoor, outdoor, or just indoor. As you just having this reception there, is it going to be ceremony and reception there? There's a lot of factors to put into that. If you're going to, say you have a winter wedding and it's going to be cold outside, do you want to have your guests outside in the cold, or do you want to have everything inside? If you're having a summer wedding, it's going to be an evening wedding, you want everybody outside where it's nice, pretty weather. It's a lot of factors to consider when it comes to venue. And venues can be interesting because they have all-inclusive venues where you pay a portion and you get everything included. So you don't have to worry about anything. Sometimes it includes food, it includes decor, it includes cake, photographer, video. Those all-inclusive packages work really well if you kind of don't want control of your wedding. They do tend to be more expensive, but in the sense that everything's already taken care of for you. So it's kind of like no hassle. As opposed to going to a venue where it's kind of bring everything that you want and bring it do yourself. It really depends on what you want, If you really want to DIY your wedding, then you may need to find a venue that allows you to bring in your own vendors. If you kind of just want whatever's at that venue, and let them kind of take care of bringing out the food and planning your photographer and your videographer, then you need to find an all-inclusive venue, or venues that have catering attached to them. But yeah, that's something to consider. What I'm going to say is this too, is you and your fiance may argue a lot more than you have when you got just boyfriend and girlfriend. Me and my husband argued a lot more when we got engaged, and from what I hear, it's completely normal. It happens. Weddings tend to bring out, I don't say the worst, but it does tend to bring out different issues that you have to talk about as a couple. And if you can survive your wedding planning process and get married, you can survive your relationship. It's you learn different things about each other and what one person like, one person doesn't like. Different family issues happen. It's a test, really. And so if you happen to argue a little bit more, you're a little more nitpicky than usual, it is completely normal. It happens. Happened to me. Happened to a few of my friends. It is what it is. And I can also say this: have fun. Wedding planning, as stressful and as annoying it can be, is a wonderful time. My wedding has been over for almost 2 months, and I am missing my wedding planning. And I think it's because I've been furloughed and haven't really had anything to do. So wedding planning was like the majority of my life up until the wedding. So definitely enjoy your time. Make the most of it. I feel like my wedding planning kind of got robbed a little bit because of the pandemic, because I couldn't do the normal things. Like, we still had, bridal shower, still had a bachelorette party, all done safely. Most of it was drive by and everything like that. But I mean, it is what it is. We were able to still do stuff, but I feel like a lot of it got put on hold because of COVID. So yeah, and I'm probably going to do a video on having a wedding during a pandemic. I know a lot of people are curious on how we did it, and how everyone was safe. And yeah, so enjoy your time being engaged, and yeah, happy wedding planning. Peace.